Thank you for that. So just to go over a few introduction before we start properly, I would like to recognize the
Good afternoon, Toby.
Hi, Nazir. Good morning. Thank you for joining. I would like to recognize the presence of everyone that is here. I see
Toby,
everyone.
can you hear me?
Yes. Loud and clear. Sorry. So I see everyone that is here. Dr. Temi Tokwe, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Joined 16 minutes ago. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Conduct. Thank you, Donald, Francesca. Thank you for both friends, colleagues. Okpeyemi, it's good to have you on board. Mr. Latifa Day, Oluwaseun, it's good to have you on board also. Thank you everyone for joining. Also to my colleagues that are here. I might not be able to mention everyone's name right now, but I see you and thank you so much for joining. So today's webinar will be discussing data protection, business continuity, in today's economy. In today's digital economy, financial institutions depend heavily on technology and data, and customer transactions, financial records, compliance data, and operational systems must be available 24/7, which is something we don't know. So how we know most organizations are faced with cyber attacks, system failures, human error, ransomwares, infrastructural outage, and without the right data protection and disaster recovery strategy, even a short outage can lead to financial loss, regulatory penalties, and also loss of customers' trust. So what we do right now, modern solutions now allow institutions to secure their data and quickly recover from disruptions and ensure business operations and continuity and maintain with minimal downtime. That's what today's conversation is about. This webinar is brought to you by Casper Technologies Limited. Casper Technology is an indigenous IT solution provider based in Ikeja, Lagos, focused on helping organizations navigate complex technology challenges and deliver advanced ICT services. What we do includes end-to-end security, network infrastructure, cloud computing, data center solutions, enterprise IT systems, and what we also do, we also help with technology procurement. Our mission is to provide business with reliable, innovative, and technological solutions that support operational efficiency and low benefits. So today we are joined by two experienced professionals from Veeam. Nazir Ahmed, a pre-sales consultant with over 20 years of experience in the IT industry, specializing in infrastructure and data management solutions. Over the last 2 years, he has been working closely with partners to help organizations protect critical data and build resilience systems. Also joining us today, we have Tanga Musaraki, a computer science professional and a member of Veeam technical team. He started his experience in AWS as a cloud engineer, and now he focuses on Veeam data solutions. We're excited to have both of you on ground today to share your expertise with us. Without any further ado, I would like to hand over this session to Nazir Ahmed to take us through what we have today. The floor is yours, sir. Over to you, Nazir.
Thank you, Toby. Yeah, much appreciated. And thanks for those warm and kind words. I really appreciate it. So as Toby mentioned, so my name is Nazir Ahmed. I'm a pre-sales consultant. I've been working with Veeam and working with partners like Casper Technology for many years now to drive solutions for data management with Veeam within many customer environments. So I'm very excited to share Veeam's purpose with you. So what are they doing in the data management space? Because many individuals think that when you hear Veeam, it's just backup and recovery. But I think like all data management products, Veeam has grown over the years. So today I'm going to share a lot about how Veeam has expanded their offering, how they're doing backup as well as data resiliency. So I think backup is one aspect, but I'm sure everyone on the call will agree that today it's more about data resiliency. So if I kick off, so it's important to recognize that data is the lifeblood of every business. And with that comes increasingly complex challenges for organizations like yours on the call. When I say increasingly challenging, it's with regards to managing your data, because as this data explodes year on year and sprawls across multiple clouds and countless endpoints and geographic locations, there are two emerging threats to data resilience. And Veeam is tracking this when it comes to data management. So the first threat is vendor lock-in. I'm sure we're all very familiar with vendor lock-in. And to keep data resilient, you need the ability to move your data easily to new applications or platforms, especially as the industry tracks aggressive vendor price increases, sending budgets through the roof. We all know, so a couple of years ago, I think there was this term that was much used in the market, in the IT market, to do more with less. All right. So the second point is the increasing volume and sophistication of ransomware. Now, I'm sure with the individual on the call, I don't need to explain what ransomware is and the threat that it sends out to IT environments. All right. So this is a costly problem, especially when you consider that close to 27% of organizations who paid a ransom still couldn't recover their data. And today we're seeing it all the time. If you're not paying enough, you're not getting your data back, and that brings your business to a grinding halt. So if we look at data resilience, right? I think the world runs on data. So every business runs on data. If the data is unavailable, every business stops. So you need to protect that data across every cloud, every point, every VM, every application container, as I mentioned. So there are some pillars to data resilience. So what does it mean for a company that you manage? So you have to pursue data resilience. So Veeam looks at these 5 pillars very closely. So the first is data backup. So backups are often the first target for ransomware attacks. I think as the years have gone along, and where at first these agents would attack production data, and then companies were familiar with that and created this huge perimeter to try and protect their production data. So these agents are now moved to the backup part of attacking. So regardless of where the data resides, they will still try and get to it. So next is the data recovery. So traditional recovery strategies leave businesses very vulnerable. So with let's say 43% of data unrecoverable post the attack. So Veeam is very passionate about data freedom, the ability to freely move your data whenever, wherever, and however you want. And then data resilience wouldn't be possible without data security. Ensuring your data is secure, it's immutable, and recoverable. I think those 3 aspects are very important. And finally, we look at the data intelligence aspect. So I think Veeam is very committed to making our products better and helping you derive insights from your backup data. So when it comes to data intelligence, it's more around the AI aspect of data backups, and I'm sure we're all very familiar with AI as well. So I think that covers most of what's on the slide. We can move to the next slide, I think. So this slide speaks to the flexibility of Veeam, right? So Veeam recognizes that to meet the modern data protection requirements, they need to support a broad set of workloads across physical, virtual, cloud, apps, and containers. And what you can expect is that new workloads will continuously be supported by Veeam. So if I look at the slide again, you can see across cloud to containers, nearly all operating systems, nearly all hypervisors are supported. I think we all understand the complexities around dealing with VMware these days. So I think what's not on the slide. So Veeam also supports Prox Mox today. So if any of you guys out there are looking into moving onto a new hypervisor vendor, and it is, so they support actually most up and coming hypervisors as well. But just gives you a view around the flexibility of Veeam today. The important stuff. So if you look at the capabilities, and to just to broaden a little bit more on the previous slide. So data backup is the foundation of data resilience, and I think I've mentioned this before. So Veeam leverages native APIs at the platform layer. So this enables your team to retire point tools. So what that means is that instead of managing multiple products within an environment, Veeam now gives you the capability, and as we'll see as I go along with the next three slides, you know what I'm talking about when I talk about point tools to manage a different solution set. So, I mean, these can be a massive headache to manage in favor of a platform that combines backups, snapshots, replication, and continuous data protection capabilities. And this helps to obviously optimize your TCO or total cost of ownership. And that commitment to TCO extends to the scalability enhancements that Veeam adds each year. You can manage complex distributed and multi-cloud environments with a central management pane of glass. And as we go later on in the presentation, I'll mention that as well. Also enabling automated policy setting that leaves no workload unprotected. And these can be automated from day one. Plus, something very important is that Veeam empowers IT teams to move testing off to a nice-to-have list by automating recoverability and testing at scale, installing confidence in how Veeam works. Next, we look at data recovery. So, speaking of testing, on my last slide, I think it's a good reminder that that disruption to your business is inevitable. At some point, it will happen, because what we see is that these threat actors that try to get into your business are working 365 days a year. And they've also automated their attacks. So it's getting more difficult day on day to be able to keep your data safe. So Veeam's comprehensive recovery capabilities aim to reduce downtime, to recover with precision, to provide documentation, and even sequence disaster recovery. And I know for many of the individuals on the call, I think disaster recovery is a very important point, seeing that you are in the financial services industry. Because I mean, the ideal is to have your IT infrastructure running at 100%, even if you're attacked via ransomware. So perhaps the worst kind of disaster is when you have to recover from a successful cyber attack. And Veeam's Secure Restore enables you to scan a backup with your antivirus software or with Yara tools that's within Veeam to ensure it's verified, clean, before you restore to production. So I think that's some of the capabilities that's built within Veeam's product suite. And then data freedom. So as I mentioned, when recovering from a site, you may have to opt for plan B, C, or D, or whatever your organization has planned to get your business back up and running. But Veeam is very passionate about keeping your data portable. So in the event of a disaster, Veeam enables you to relocate and to re-platform your data so you can recover whenever, however you need. For example, let's say you're doing backups today on-prem or in your data center, and for some odd reason, the server fails, and it's going to take you, I don't know, 8 weeks to 10 weeks to now buy a new server, because I'm sure being in the IT industry, we're all familiar with what's happening with memory and SSD drives today. So to purchase that new server is probably going to take you, I don't know, 8 weeks. And obviously the business can't wait 8 weeks. So what you can do is then repurpose your backups or recover your backups into the cloud. So backups that have now been restored on-prem and your storage is still available, you can then use a cloud environment to run your data center. And this can be done via the Veeam console. I think that's one good factor about Veeam. So data portability and data freedom is very, very important. Let me go on to data security. I'm sure this is a very important aspect and obviously a massive pain point when it comes to securing what data today. So we believe that that organizations should relegate data protection to the back half of an incident response plan. So what does that mean? So instead, Veeam offers a 360-degree approach, whether it's pre, during, and post-incident. There are very few products out there today that can do this, actually. I think most of the competitors are sort of catching up to Veeam, but Veeam was first to this. I think there's another backup vendor who probably had the same type of technology with Veeam, but in terms of bleeding edge, I think Veeam has come a long way. If I can give you an example, so Veeam now offers a broad range of options to detect suspicious activity by performing, let's say, low-impact scans on your backups. So Veeam is constantly tracking your backups. And it adds yet another set of signals for your organization to detect incidents faster. Another way Veeam thinks it's proactively securing your data is by supporting immutability everywhere and anywhere. So as I go along, I'll speak about Veeam Data Cloud and the products it offers as backup as a service. So what you'll find is Veeam makes data immutable everywhere. And when I say that, it can be on-prem. So if you look at your backups today, you have the option to make it immutable if you're not using immutable storage. Or if you want to back it up into the cloud, you have the option to make everything immutable into Veeam's data cloud. So hardware agnostic security with zero trust data resilience. So a common best practice for pre-incident planning is zero trust. So it's a model that drives organizations to assume breach across their entire estate. So there shouldn't be any breaches, basically. That's what it's saying. So Veeam's approach to zero trust data resilience extends across traditional zero trust networking principles. Basically, what it's saying is never trust, always verify. And this happens directly into the backup and recovery environment. So this strategy is designed to be hardware agnostic. So Veeam doesn't care about the underlying hardware, thereby ensuring that your data remains resilient, whether it resides on physical servers, virtual machines, or in the cloud. So there are three, I think, primary pillars for achieving this data resilience within that zero trust framework. The first one is the separation of software and storage. So I think to limit the blast radius of a breach, Veeam separates the backup management system from the backup storage repositories, thereby ensuring that a compromise of the backup software does not automatically lead to the loss of your stored data. So that's the first element. So the second element is multiple resilient zones. So by following the 3-2-1-1 rule, sure everybody out there, well, for those who don't understand, so it's 3 copies of data, 2 different media, 1 offsite and 1 air-gapped or immutable copy, and that can be on-prem or in the cloud. So by following that rule, Veeam creates isolated security domains. And what does that mean? If one zone is compromised, the others remain protected and ready for for recovery. And then the last element of this zero trust data resiliency is immutable and encrypted storage. So immutability prevents backup data from being altered or deleted by ransomware, or in any case, rogue admins, if that is the case. So the encryption of this data ensures that even if data is exfiltrated, it remains unreadable and unauthorized, which means no one can touch the data. So those are the core elements when it comes to zero trust data. Sorry, one other thing. What Veeam also has, it has plugins, right? So the principle into the foundational architecture of every solution is to employ physical or logical separation of environments. And with least privilege access, obviously this helps. And this helps by minimizing the attacks to your organization. So a couple of years ago, I think maybe it's 2 or 3 years ago, Veeam purchased a company called Coveware. So according to Veeam, so this was a company that was created by ex-FBI agents, which is very interesting. So Veeam, so basically what Coveware does, it's an incident response tool, and it's now offered as part of Veeam's cybersecure program. What it combines is powerful security capabilities with the expertise backed by the largest commercial database of cyber incidents response data. So now you're talking about probably Veeam's entire database of customers who've listed an incident, and they've stored all this data, and now you have the expertise of Coveware to try and go through this data to recover. So what happens basically when you're attacked and there's an incident and your organization has been infiltrated, if you're covered with Coveware from VMware, they'll take over and they'll assist by trying to recover your data. They actually take over the whole aspect of recoverability. So this, I can tell you, no other vendor in the market can provide this type of service. And then we move on to data intelligence. So data intelligence has everything to do with Veeam's AI offering, which I mentioned earlier. So it's very easy to use. The engine sends signals to the Veeam Threat Center dashboard. So it highlights potential threats and measuring risk via an automated security scoring function. So again, as cyber attacks become increasingly sophisticated, I think you should be looking to exploit the power of AI to stay one step ahead. And Veeam can offer this when it comes to your backup data. So as part of this, so Veeam, as I spoke about this whole database, so Veeam has about 450,000 organizations that use their technology. And from this, they can learn about attacks and gain a lot of experience. So back in 2019, Veeam launched Intelligent Diagnostic. So it's a solution that leverages a database of signals, as I mentioned, from Veeam's tech support. And then it recommends remediation or actions for remediation based on common configuration. So these kinds of diagnostics can help to fix issues before they become a blocker to data resilience. What they also launched recently was something called Veeam AI Digital Assistant. So it's a product that guides in terms of generative AI. So this engine will become more powerful as it goes along. So it's a pretty new product, but with all AI, it's pattern detecting and gets better as we go along. So that's also available from a solution perspective. There's also Copilot integration, and this can expand Veeam's existing capabilities for backup data reuse. I think Veeam makes it easy to crack open backups and use them for dev and test as well. So this slide actually speaks, I'm sure you've seen across the presentation that the term flexibility or flexible comes up a lot. So this slide also shows the flexibility of Veeam in terms of how they deliver their solution. So the theme goes on and on as we go along. So unlike other vendors in the space, we have prescriptive and restrictive deployment options. I think Veeam offers customers choice with these flexible delivery models. I think they execute complete control over the architecture and deployment of your backup strategy with their software subscription options. So as you can see on the slide, or they can accelerate what time to value. So if you're a customer that wants to do backups, let's say tomorrow, without making an investment in any infrastructure to do the backups, they have the as-a-service offerings. So the as-a-service offerings are very important. So it can be purchased via a cloud service provider. It can be purchased via a partner like Casper as Veeam Data Cloud. So Veeam Data Cloud comes in various offerings. I think we can have another session if need be, but as you can see at the bottom of the slide there's some information around. So you have M365, you have Veeam Vault. So there's a couple of offerings when it comes to the Veeam Data Cloud option, and the cloud portion of it. So AWS and Azure. So to bring these 5 pillars together, that slide that we had previously, across the delivery models that Veeam has, I want to refresh. I want to refresh your memory and take you back to the beginning of the presentation. So this slide basically summarizes what I've spoken about in the previous slide. So I think the main takeaway from the short presentation that I have to do is I think the industry is currently experiencing the perfect storm of complexity and threats. So data volumes are growing, data is increasingly getting locked in a proprietary environment without any open access. So workloads are going unprotected as they move into multiple clouds, and bad actors are actually gaining ground. So the time is now, I think, to prioritize your data resilience. Sorry, I don't actually need that slide. So this is some marketing information. So it basically speaks of Veeam's posture in the backup management space. So as you can see, when it comes to organizations like Gartner and IDC, so Veeam's rated #1 in the data replication and protection environment. And this obviously takes into consideration the capability, the market share that Veeam has. And then obviously you can see some mention of Gartner as well. So quite good accolades that Veeam has. And from my experience with the product, I can tell you it's growing every quarter. So they're purchasing new product, new companies. I mean, recently at the end of December 2025, they purchased AI security company, and from what I hear, the intention is to actually embed some of that security posture into Veeam technology. So, guys, I think due to the time considerations, I think that's me. I'm willing to open the floor now. If anybody has any questions, maybe send it back to Toby. If there's anything that you need to chat about, I think we have about 15 minutes. Yeah, Toby.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ezra, for that presentation. So now we're in the question and answer session. If you have any questions, you can just raise your hands, and I would call. So we can use the chat box also. So let's raise our hands and use the chat box if you have questions. I'll give about 2 minutes for everyone to settle that in. Then raise our All right. There's no questions on the chat box yet, but I have a question. So let me just ask my question. I think everyone can pick from my question, and I'm going to ask many in the event of a ransomware attack now. Let's say a financial institution in Nigeria. What is the real life impact of downtime, and how does Veeam, reduce that exposure? You spoke about Veeam's response time being close, being very, very rapid, and 5 times, 5 times faster in recovery speed. So how does Veeam help to reduce that exposure in the event of a company has a ransomware attack?
Yeah. So remember, once your data has been attacked and the threat actors have access to it, what they're looking for is a ransom, right? I mean, the description says it, ransomware. So if you don't have multiple copies of your data, firstly, so you're in the red already, right? I mean, if you don't have backups, it's even worse. But as you saw in my slides now, with Veeam's understanding of backups and their and ransomware, by purchasing companies like Coveware, etc. So if you have multiple copies of backups and you follow the 3-2-1-1 principle, hopefully you won't get attacked, right? But if you are attacked, if you are in a scenario where you are attacked, you could use a company called Coveware. Obviously, it does come with a cost, unfortunately, and they will take over that whole negotiation. In fact, they go to a level where they take over the negotiation with the actual threat actors to try and get your data back. But in terms of time to recovery, I mean, that all depends, right? If your data is accessible and you followed Veeam's principles, as I mentioned in my slide now, it can be anything from 1 hour to 24 hours. So, but then also it comes back to the strategy in terms of storing, in terms of backing up data 3-2-1-1. If you follow that principle and your data is available, it can be immediate, although you've been attacked. I'm not sure if that answers your question, Toby.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. All right, there's a question on the chat. Just read it out. It said, what's the difference between a backup and a replication job? And where should the backup server be located in a two-site setup? What is the difference between a backup and a replication job? And where should the backup server be located in a two-site setup?
Okay, perfect. That's a good question, actually. So a backup is where you take a copy of your data and you store it securely to restore it at some point. Now, that if you look at the 3-2-1-1 principle, so what ideally you want to keep a copy of the data on site first or on-prem. Then you want to look at another location, be it tape. So tape is very much part of Veeam's 3-2-1-1 sort of backup principles, because then you can move it off-site. Or another location is to store that backup in the cloud. So basically taking a copy of your data and storing it in any of those locations I've mentioned. And I do apologize, I didn't touch on the word replication. So backup is the one aspect, and then Veeam also replicates data. So backup data and live data. So if you've got a state of VMs, the Veeam today can replicate that data from one site to the next site to give you HR and DR capabilities. So it has nothing to do with backup. It can replicate primary data from site A to site B. Then where should backup server be located in a two-site setup? So you could have two, if you really want HA capabilities, you could have actually two backup servers, just in case. Or it doesn't matter, actually. You can have it in site one or site or site two. So Veeam's architecture allows for backups to be managed from anywhere, any site. Or you could have that backup server sitting in the cloud if you want. So Gideon, I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Okay, thank you so much. I think satisfied. Thank you, Gideon, for the question. I have a practical question. That's also just, I think it's a question that will benefit everyone here. It says, the question is, if we are advising a tier one bank today, because we have a lot of banks that are coming, financial institutions, they are still on the tier one level, they are still in the pilot stage.
We actually,
okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better, much better. Thank you.
All right. So I said that we have a lot of financial institutions in Nigeria that are just coming up, and they are in the pilot phase. So we'll classify them majorly as tier one banks. Yeah. So if you're advising a tier one financial institution today, what would you recommend the roadmap for achieving true data resilience? What would it look like within the next 12 months? Practically using Veeam as a framework. Okay, perfect. So, and this is regardless if they on-prem or born in the cloud, you still and hopefully, what Toby, you could share that slide about the 3-2-1-1 strategy that Veeam has to most of the guys, to most of the ladies and gents in the audience, because I think that's what you need to follow. Right? I mean, backup is a given. You have to have backup for your data. People should also understand that if you're born in the cloud, Microsoft Azure, Google, AWS is not going to back up your data for you, right? I don't know if many organizations don't understand that. They think their data is secure, which is fine, but the cloud providers are not going to back up your data for you. So you have to have your own backup strategy, right? So in the cloud, back it up, have multiple copies of data, make it immutable, have one copy offsite. That's the best strategy today, and I can tell you that works for a lot of organizations that I've spoken to as well. All right, thank you so much, Nazir, for that question. Do we still have any more questions?
Can I maybe the guys on the call? I know it was only a 20-minute presentation, and there's a lot of information within the presentation that probably some of your attendees would like to see more information on, or would like to hear more about, in-depth what data resilience, in-depth on Veeam's data cloud offerings. So I'm more than happy to do another session if required. So if you get feedback from the attendees on the call, and if you need any more information, let us know.
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. We would be sharing a feedback form with everyone that attended, so we'll be able to get their feedbacks, and we would get back to you whether we would need another one or not. And obviously, the recordings for this session would also be uploaded. Okay. I'll just give 1 more minute to know if we have any other question. If we don't, we'll call it a wrap for today. Is there any other question from anyone in the from any one of the attendees of this call? Okay, I see a chat. Gideon also has another question. He says, should I install Veeam on a physical or a virtual machine? Should I install Veeam on a physical or on a virtual machine?
Yeah. So both will work. Ideally, if it's a virtual machine, you would want to store it on a machine that probably is running low workloads. But what we advocate for is to load it on a physical server. Obviously, it depends on the size of backups and the throughput and the performance that's required, right? For smaller environments, you could install it on a virtual machine in the cloud. You could install it on a virtual machine on a server you have that's running, less important workloads. So Gideon, it can be on anything, but I recommend physical. So forever forward, so you have a backup today and you add on to it every day. So that's forever forward, right? So Gideon, there's different backup methodologies when it comes to how you store your data, your recovery points, your recovery time objectives. So I could attach whatever you've put there as a question in terms of to how fast do you want to recover your data or how much storage you have to store your data. So there's a lot of aspects that get attached to what you've just posted. So Gideon's question, sorry, for those of you who haven't seen. So Gideon's question is, so should I use forever forward incremental or synthetic full backups, which is getting a bit technical, but it's fine. So that depends on how fast you want to recover. I mean, if you want to save data every day or you want to save space, synthetic full backups are the best way to go, and you have multiple recovery points, whereas forever forward saves on data, but your recovery might be a bit slower, basically. If that's all right from an answer perspective.
All right, thank you very much. I think, let me just ask to be sure Gideon is fine. Gideon is there. Okay, he said thanks.
Fine. Yeah.
All right, so it's fine. So thank you, everyone. Do we still have any more questions? Any more questions from the audience? Okay, so thank you very much for the response, Nazir. Thank you for today's session. I would like to thank our speaker, Mr. Nazir, and also like to thank Mr. Tanga on the call today. Thank you for sharing your insight and your expertise with us. And of course, thank you everyone who joined today's webinar. The key takeaway from today's webinar is very simple. Data is one of the most valuable assets, and for any financial institution, and you have to protect that data and ensure to ensure continuous operations and in your business, because it's no longer an option. It is essential. It is essential. If you would like to learn more about Casper Technologies and how Casper Technologies can support your organizations with data protection and cloud infrastructure and cloud infrastructure solution, please feel free to reach out to us on the email address showing on the screen. That's our address. Also, I'm going to read it out so that everyone can get it. Also, we have info@caspertechng.com. You can also send a mail to sales@caspertechng.com. The phone number is there, which is also there. And then you can visit our website at www.caspertechng.com. The recording of this webinar will be shared with you also just after now. A feedback form will be shared. Once again, thank you everyone for joining, and we hope to see you at our next event. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.